Every minute, the world produces a staggering 2 million kilograms of trash, so much that by 2050, waste volumes could nearly double. But what happens to all of this garbage? And why are our cities, despite modern advancements, still suffocating under their own waste? For years, societies have relied on recycling as the answer to pollution, but what if it's only a band-aid on a much deeper problem? Failures in modern waste systems, rapid urbanization, and our endless consumption habits are creating a perfect storm. In this video, we expose the hidden truth behind the waste crisis, revealing the dark ripple effects and a glimpse of hope through revolutionary solutions. The global scale of waste generation is staggering. According to the United Nations Environment Program, the world produced 2.1 billion tons of waste in 2023. Without significant changes, projections show that this could rise to 3.8 billion tons by 2050. This growth is driven by rapid urbanization and population increases, outpacing the ability of most cities to manage their waste effectively.
Across the world, entire neighborhoods are overshadowed by mountains of trash. In cities like New Delhi, India, these landfills rise above residential areas, becoming part of the landscape. Residents live just meters from towering piles of waste, exposed daily to the harmful gases and toxins they emit. The consequences are clear. New Delhi's population faces some of the highest rates of chronic respiratory diseases and asthma in the world. The air is thick with pollutants, a mixture of decomposing garbage and other urban emissions, making every breath a potential health risk.
The impact of these trash mountains extends beyond the air. Rivers that should sustain life instead carry the evidence of urban neglect. The Yamuna River, sacred to millions in India, has become a channel for garbage and industrial runoff. Waste floats alongside ashes from cremations, and the water is so polluted that those who rely on it face serious health risks. Many people, forced by poverty and the absence of social safety nets, collect recyclables from the river, risking their health for a small income. This daily exposure to contaminated water and hazardous waste is a stark reminder of the human cost of inadequate waste management. Once an item leaves your hand and drops into a bin, its journey is far from over. The process that follows is complex and riddled with challenges that most people never see. Many assume that sorting waste into the right bins guarantees it will be recycled or properly processed. In reality, the story is much messier, and often the outcome is not what we expect. Recycling systems, even in the most advanced cities, struggle with contamination and inefficiency when items that don't belong, like greasy food containers, plastic wraps, or mixed materials, end up in recycling bins. They can compromise entire batches. This is a common problem as people often toss questionable items in, hoping they will somehow be recycled. The result is that loads contaminated by non-recyclables are diverted to landfills or incinerators, undermining the effort to reduce waste. In places with strict regulations, such as Austria, quality control is enforced through laws like the Compost Ordinance, which requires rigorous sorting and processing standards. The economic reality of recycling is a major obstacle. Processing certain materials like mixed plastics and glass is expensive and often unprofitable. Waste management companies, especially in regions without strong regulatory frameworks, may choose to landfill or incinerate these materials rather than recycle them. Even when recycling does occur, the quality of the output can be so low that it is not suitable for making new products, leading to further waste. For example, Austria recycles about 63% of its municipal solid waste, the highest rate in Europe, but this level of performance is rare globally, and even there, not all materials are recycled into high-quality goods. On a broader scale, cross-border waste shipments create additional complications. The European Union, for instance, has set ambitious recycling targets, but faces ongoing challenges with illegal or poorly monitored waste exports. Once waste leaves its country of origin, it becomes difficult to track, and there is little guarantee it will be handled responsibly. These shipments sometimes end up in regions with weaker environmental protections where waste is more likely to be dumped or burned, compounding the environmental and health risks. E-waste adds another layer to the problem. Devices discarded in one country may be shipped elsewhere for supposed reuse or recycling, but often end up in informal processing sites. There, workers dismantle electronics by hand, exposing themselves and their communities to hazardous chemicals. The United Nations Environment Program has highlighted the hidden costs of these practices, noting the serious threats to both human health and the environment. The environmental impacts of improper disposal are immediate and far-reaching. Plastics that escape the waste stream break down into microplastics, contaminating oceans, soils, and water supplies. Toxic chemicals from waste seep into groundwater and rivers, threatening food security and public health. These effects are not limited to distant locations. They are felt in cities and rural areas alike, wherever waste management systems fall short. All of these challenges stem from a combination of weak accountability, profit-driven decision-making, and infrastructure that cannot keep pace with the growing volume of waste. Governments often lack strong enforcement mechanisms, and companies may cut corners to save money. Even in places with established recycling programs, the gap between what is promised and what is delivered is wide. The comforting image of sustainability, of simply putting the right item in the right bin, rarely matches reality. For some, trash isn't just a crisis, it's home. Across the globe, millions of people live within the shadows of urban dumps, entire communities existing at the edge of endless piles of waste. These areas are often home to those already living on society's margins, low-income families, many with no choice but to settle near these sites due to systemic poverty and a lack of alternatives. What's more, for some residents, the garbage itself becomes a means of survival. Scavenging for recyclables and reselling them offers just enough money to scrape by. But the cost of living and working in these environments isn't something measured solely in currency. It's measured in lives and health. Take New Delhi, for example, where children as young as 6 climb precarious trash mountains to collect plastic and metal scraps. These scavenger sites, like the towering Ghazipur landfill, are massive. They contain decades of accumulated garbage, much of it decomposing and releasing toxic chemicals into the air, water, and soil. With no protective equipment and little knowledge of the risks, these children inhale fumes from burning refuse and sift through broken glass, rusted metal, and even medical waste. Cuts and infections are common, but the longer-term consequences are even more insidious. Respiratory illnesses like asthma, chronic coughs, and even permanent lung damage are all part of daily life for those forced to forage on these waste heaps. In Mexico City, similar dangers loom for families living near the Bordo Poniente landfill, a now closed but still hazardous monument to urban excess. Toxic gases like methane continue to seep out from beneath its surface, while surrounding groundwater remains polluted from decades of waste runoff. Residents complain of worsening health that doctors link to contaminated drinking water. Waterborne diseases such as diarrhea and cholera have become staples of public health concerns here. And it's not just water. Air pollution from illegal trash burning occurs daily, engulfing homes in heavy, acrid smoke that worsens respiratory conditions. Yet for many, there's no escape. The land is cheap or already inherited, and relocation is simply not an option. In Nairobi City, residents of Dandora live in constant proximity to waste. Dandora's landfill, one of the largest in Africa, officially closed its gates long ago, but it continues to overflow with new, illegally dumped trash. The community, located barely a few meters away, suffers the consequences. Schools and homes share air polluted with toxins released from incessant plastic burning. Medical professionals report increased cases of respiratory diseases, skin infections, and waterborne illnesses, all stemming from exposure to trash and toxic waste contaminants. The symptoms may vary, but the mental strain endures. The knowledge that danger comes not from far-off incidents, but from the ground beneath their feet and the air they breathe takes a relentless toll. Much of this suffering originates from systemic inequality. It's no coincidence that waste facilities, landfills, and dumps are most often situated next to low-income neighborhoods. Wealthy residents and more affluent communities hold greater social and political power to resist the establishment of such sites near their homes, pushing the burden onto the poorest. These disadvantaged communities are not only more likely to live near these health hazards, but often have fewer resources to cope with the consequences. Limited access to medical care, clean water, and sanitation means even small infections can spiral into life-threatening conditions.
A young girl named Rani has spent her childhood picking through the garbage in India's capital. For her, the towering heaps at the Palswa landfill serve as her daily workplace. Her mother, weakened by chronic respiratory illnesses, can no longer scavenge. The family relies on the few rupees Rani earns collecting plastic bottles. She has scars across her arms and legs from cuts caused by sharp debris, and her relentless cough is a lasting reminder of the toxic smoke she breathes each day. For Rani, like countless others, this life feels inescapable. It is a fight for survival in conditions that slowly erode the body.
These real stories serve as a reminder. The waste we discard doesn't disappear. It shifts its burden. And as these communities wrestle with the direct health impacts of mismanaged trash, we must also ask, what happens to the planet itself under this strain? The answer is just as devastating. Across the globe, some cities and countries have moved beyond crisis management, creating systems where waste is handled with precision and purpose. San Francisco stands out as a leader in measurable results. The city's three-stream collection program requires residents and businesses to sort waste into separate bins for recyclables, compostables, and landfill-bound trash. What makes this approach effective is the city's commitment to inclusive outreach. Instructions are provided in multiple languages with clear visuals, ensuring that San Francisco's diverse population can participate fully. These efforts paid off. By 2010, San Francisco had already achieved 75% diversion of waste from landfills, surpassing its original target 2 years ahead of schedule. The city has since surpassed 80% diversion, setting ambitious new goals for 2030. Central to San Francisco's progress is its urban food scraps composting program, the first and largest of its kind in the United States. This initiative collects organic material from nearly every waste generator in the city. Over 2 million tons of food scraps, soiled paper, and plant trimmings have been transformed into compost, which is then used by local orchards, vineyards, and farms. This closed-loop system reduces landfill use, cuts methane emissions, and supports local agriculture. The city also enforces policies that reward businesses for reducing waste and penalize those that fail to comply, creating a culture of shared responsibility. Austria offers another model of what works, consistently maintaining Europe's highest municipal solid waste recycling rate at around 63%. Austria's separate collection policy for biogenic waste, in place since 1995, has led to the collection of about 105 kilograms per capita of organic material in 2008. The compost ordinance ensures that compost produced from this material meets strict quality standards, making it competitive in the market and minimizing environmental impacts. Austria's approach goes beyond recycling. Since 1991, all municipal waste incineration plants have featured energy recovery for district heating, turning waste into a source of renewable energy for homes and businesses. Materials like waste wood are also used to replace fossil fuels in industry, further reducing landfill dependency and carbon emissions. These strategies are supported by strong policies such as the Act on the Remediation of Contaminated Sites, landfill bans on reactive waste, and increased landfill tax rates, all designed to drive waste away from disposal and toward recovery.
The waste crisis is not inevitable. While these examples are encouraging, yes, they also highlight the scale of change required. Achieving similar results elsewhere means rethinking how waste is collected, processed, and valued. It involves governments setting clear rules, industries designing for reuse and recycling, and individuals making informed choices. The solutions are not limited to wealthy cities or countries. They can be adapted and scaled to fit local contexts, provided there is the will to act.
When cities and nations prioritize sustainability, invest in infrastructure, and engage their communities, waste can become a resource rather than a burden. The contrast between places that have embraced these solutions and those that have not is stark, reminding us that the path forward depends on collective choices. According to the UNEP Global Waste Management Outlook, adopting a circular economy could yield a net gain of $108.5 billion each year by prioritizing waste avoidance and sustainable practices.
Concrete policies make a difference. Austria's increase in landfill taxes directly reduced landfilling and boosted recycling rates, showing how targeted regulation can reshape waste management. Think about your own city. What policies or programs like those in Austria or San Francisco could you advocate for? Share your ideas for local waste solutions in the comments. Be on the lookout for our next video about urban planning for climate change.